And welcome back to Daily Wrap. It's potluck time. This is part of the show. We go around the table, share our favorite stories of the day. We're going to go inverse alphabetical order. So Unger goes first.
That's interesting. So after I got done trashing the police officers down in Baltimore, now I'm going to switch gears and speak up a bit for all the good police officers out there who were paying a pretty big price in the PR wars, thanks to the actions of a few bad police officers. Look, it seems like every week now we're seeing stories that are captured on video, whether it's the video camera from inside the police squad car or it's a bystander who catches it on camera. We're seeing some bad things happen with police officers. But now let's take the case of the Texas pool party. Yes, there was the one officer who appeared to get a little bit out of control. I criticized him on this show. It looked like he behaved improperly. We still have to see an investigation. He ended up resigning. But what we tend to forget when we see that is that there were 8 other police officers sent with that officer, and to the best of anybody's recollection or statements, those officers behaved completely by the book, behaved well, were calm, did the job that they were supposed to do, and were just good cops. So you've got 8 good cops, one guy who went a little bit off, and now we're all beating up on the police department down there. We have to keep some level of judgment. But the problem is, when that one police officer does something wrong, and I actually brought some tape that we can run of today's story, because it's like almost every day. In this particular case, the fellow who you see walking across the street, and this is going back a little bit, is blind. Here we go. He's blind. The police call him over. He was a bit nervous because he can't see who's calling him over, and they didn't identify as police. They just said, "Come here." And you can see they go to handcuff him, and then he said something. He was scared. He did not know yet who it was, and they took him down. A blind man. Now, this is not going to garner the police in that city a whole lot of goodwill, is it?
Did he say he was blind? Did he say, by the way, guys, I can't see?
He did. And
Okay.
now, he didn't as he was walking over, obviously. And the reason they showed up, there had been a report in the neighborhood of something, they reported a black man who did something, I don't even know what it was, and that's why the police were there. But it's a tough job, but you've got to show some sensitivity. That was captured by the officer's own video recorder.
Yeah, the dash cam.
The bottom line to all of this is those who run police forces all through America, and I'm sure in almost every case they are well-intended, well-trained, good people trying to do an important job that we can't do without. They've got to start focusing on the public relations aspect of this job as much as anything else, or we're going to stay stuck in this thing we've now gotten into. You've got to train the police officers who have a tendency to do wrong, to make them understand what they're doing to their brother and sister police officers, and that's the only way we get past that. Let's not throw out the good cops with a couple of bad cops, but let's get to work on training those bad cops to behave like good cops.
Is it possible for any organization to be perfect?
No, it's
right?
not.
And that's as you said, 8 good cops, 1 bad cop, but all it takes are a couple of bad apples to spoil for the whole bunch.
Unfortunately, in that type of an organization, if somebody goes way off the reservation, terrible things happen.
Yep, it's gonna be
something goes
recorded.
wrong here, we run a wrong tape or something. Very big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brad?
Well, I would just say that adage that it takes one apple to spoil the whole barrel is actually bad education. It's bad public education. What if we made a decision to do an 8-to-1 ratio, 8 stories of cops doing their jobs well and professionally for every one we
That's
decide
fair.
to cover that was off the rails?
That's fair.
Right? And the other
is a
piece of
part.
it is, what if we began to legislate and enforce rules against police officers on the premise that only 1 in 8, if that's the ratio, and it's much lower, we know, but just on the Texas pool party 1 in 8 that is doing something wrong. My guess is you would still have real rules and real enforcement, but you would have a premise of the correctness of the officers, not a premise of the incorrectness of the officers.
No, last word.
Yeah, Brad hit on a point that I think is a great point, and I wanted to make it, is that you really can't reform police or even the criminal justice system, for example, based on anecdotes, where we have macro data, where we can actually pinpoint that there's evidence that things need to be reformed when it comes to drug sentencing or bail or hearings or even the grand jury system when it comes to the Eric Garner situation. We have macro data that suggests that there's a real need for reform, but when we have instances like what happened in Ferguson or what happened with Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and we change or alter the system based on that anecdote, however horrible that anecdote may be, we end up making more harm than I think we do good.
Okay, very good. And that leaves me about 8 seconds for my potluck. We'll make it very fast, actually. Over the next couple of weeks, great story in the Washington Post today, the Obama legacy could be decided. Just in the next couple of weeks. Think about this. Obamacare, in essence, could be struck down by the Supreme Court and might have to go back to the states, and that's his signature achievement, right? Iraq can get a heck of a lot worse. The Pacific Trade Agreement might not be able to go through. It's the cornerstone of his economic policy. We could go on and the nuke deal, by the way, that's supposed to happen at the end of this month. What if that doesn't happen? If all 3 or 4 of those things fall apart, then what's left for the president? We can't talk because we got to go. Yay or nay is next. Back with more in a moment.